name is Isabel Grand. I'm 17 and I'm currently studying A-levels in Maths, Physics, Biology and English at St Helens High School.
And I'm Joshua Johnson, also 17, and I'm studying my A-levels in Maths, further Maths, Physics and Chemistry, and it's lovely to be with you all here this morning.
I would like to ask our panellists to introduce themselves, so we start on this side and work across.
Morning Borda, I'm Richard Hatwood. I'm head teacher of All Saints Primary School, which is a VA school up in Gresford in Wrexham. And we've been substantially hit by a train delay this morning coming down, so it's nice to be here.
Borda, I'm Gemma Majorano. I'm the ALNCO and EDI lead at St Paul's Church and Wales School in Grangetown, and it was a while ago since I was 17, so but I've got fond memories.
Good morning, I'm Adele Taylor. I work in the Equity and Education Division in the Welsh Government. My name might be Adele, but I'm not a singer, so thankfully I'm not going to sing. And yeah, I'm glad I'm not 17 doing my A-levels again. But yeah, nice to meet you all.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. My name is Ahmed Al-Sisi. I'm a chaplain, the founder of White Rose Funerals. I lead the National Bereavement and Mental Wellbeing Conference. I can go on, but my most proudest thing about me, I feel, is being a father. Thank you.
Shemai, I'm Sarah Jones. This is my parish.
Good morning, Borda. I'm Jim Ritalik, and I'm very proud to be the Chair of Governors of the wonderful Langatach Church and Wales School in Powys.
Thank you for leading this conversation for us today. We have roughly 40 minutes for questions, with some time at the end for anyone else if they want to ask any other questions. So at the end.
Great, let's get into question one. What helps children to flourish in our schools? Richard, would you mind starting by answering that?
Yeah, I think it's strange talking with a microphone because normally I never need a microphone to be heard. So I think what it's around for me and for us in our school is getting to know those children inside out. And when we talk in staff meetings around the difference that we make to children's lives, and we might be thinking outside of the curriculum, so we might be thinking in terms of social, emotional kind of needs as well. We do a huge amount of work in a really short time. And if you break down the amount of time we actually have the children for with us, that kind of 9 till 3 for 30 odd weeks of the year, the difference that we make is huge. And I think it's at times it's really important that we come back to that and we reflect and we actually give ourselves a pat on the back, and we're quite bad at doing that in education at times, to say that that's really, really important. We're really, really keen to take the children outside of the classroom as well. So I've been fortunate, we've taken children overseas, children who might not have ever had that opportunity. My mum grew up on a really deprived area with smashed windows in her house, and in that cycle of kind of culture of not working, she went through that and got herself a really decent job and a career, and someone gave her that chance. And when I've been brought up with that kind of mentality, it's around giving children these opportunities and these chances to see they can travel further, they can do these things, and it's crafting that environment for them. And the last thing before I stop is connecting with them personally as well as academically as well, and getting to know them inside out, getting to know who goes to Scouts, who wants to be a footballer, just getting to know those really things, taking that interest in them. And I think if they know that we're connected and we're interested in them, they'll give us more, and that will help them to become broader and to flourish.
Great, thank you very much for that. Adele, what are your thoughts?
So I'm just going to say everything that Chantal told us at the beginning there. I think is listening to pupils, giving them that opportunity to voice what they feel, how they feel, do they belong or not, how can they feel more welcomed. And I think in my time in Welsh Government, I sit behind a computer and write policies and listen in meetings. But I think the most powerful thing is when I come out to schools and I meet pupils and teachers who take their time to not just stand there and deliver a lesson. They are helping them with things that that they probably didn't learn in university when they went to learn how to be a teacher. I think that the most powerful thing that we've seen is maybe with the Schools of Sanctuary movement, where we welcome refugees and asylum seekers and migrant children to their school, how the school community make the parents feel part of that community, how the resilience. You know, we often talk about trauma that comes with somebody who seeks sanctuary in Wales, but actually there's a resilience that those children have brought with them in their journey here. But also there's also quite a lot of things that have happened to them that's incredibly negative. But as schools, you give those children that opportunity to flourish. And they may never have that opportunity in their country of origin, like girls in Afghanistan, for example. So you have that chance to help those children flourish from whichever background they come from. And then I'm going to plug DARPL because that professional learning is incredibly important. You know, you go, you learn, but we know that every day we learn, but the professional learning helps to make those children flourish even more.
Adele, I wanted to share a quote, but I ran out of time, so now it's my chance, because Lisa and I both love this quote, and it's, "You are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in one drop." And I think we're in a really ultimate time, because the 4 generations I was talking about was fighting for the policy that we've got now with you at the wheel. So, you know, it's really important. Thank you.
Yeah, there's so many things that we could say, isn't there? And especially, I mean, I don't want to talk about what's happening in the news right now, but there is so much more, I think. You know, Joe Cox talks about there's much more that unites us than divides us. And I think if we focus on not the negative, but the positive about what you can do as teachers or governors. You know, governors play an incredibly important role in addressing racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, anti-Muslim hatred, all of those things that we see in every day on the news. You've got that chance to educate children and to make them feel like they belong, they can have it. So.
Thank you very much. Ahmed, what are your views?
Thank you, Lisa, for giving me this chance today. Just want to start, you know, I might have gained a lot of weight in the last 2 months because these chairs are quite tight. No, it's fine. I'm thinking, what's going on with me? I came here when I was 11 years old. I came from Gaza. I didn't come here because I wanted to. I came here because my father was studying in Cardiff University. I didn't speak English, you know. I was the new kid on the block in school, Fitzallen High School. I knew there's a lot of differences, you know, that's obvious, that's the first thing you notice. I think one of the first things I noticed is how good looking the Welsh community is. Very good looking people, very well smart, dressed smart. I had a lot of challenges back then, and I was very isolated and lonely. And the only person that actually helped, had an impact, an everlasting impact on myself, is a gentleman sitting at the back there by the name of Barry Phillips. He was the head teacher at our high school, and he saved my life, you know. Saved me from a great beating from my father once when I turned up to parents' evening and all teachers said how bad I was. But he said to my father as we're walking out that I have a great potential. And that's, my father smiled and then, you know, took it easy on me that night. Well, I survived, I'm here, and I'm actually sitting right next to him. So I wouldn't be here today without having such an individual who wasn't even my teacher. He didn't teach me, but I was having a conversation about my faith with him. We were talking about my problems, and I was very rebellious, so I turned up without uniform. Never liked uniform. And he would look at me. All other teachers would punish me, but he would look at me and say, "You don't have enough money for a uniform?" And I had money for the uniform, but I had to lie and say, no, I was embarrassed. And that made me actually start wearing a uniform to school. Because I had someone that can see me, not judge me. And I believe the first thing we do when we look at each other is we judge each other. And I don't know why. So yeah, that I believe being seen, being heard, being respected, everyone has a story. how many teachers know there's children's story in your class? You know, how many children, my children they do a lot of things outside school, but they're never celebrated in school. But it feels as a parent, my work is lost. And as a chaplain who works with young people who are inside and outside prison, I believe it could have, as just a little hope, giving them a bit of hope, would have probably changed a lot of those people's lives. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you very much. Gemma, do you agree with what's been said so far?
Yeah, pretty much everything, so I'll just go sit down. Yeah, you know, sort of reiterating what Richard had said, it's knowing our children in our school. We spend a lot of time at the start of every term really getting to know our children. So we follow an inquiry cycle, and we have big questions, and our first big question is all around belonging and making sure that the children are known to the teachers, taking into consideration of their personal interests, what they do outside of school, what their family structure's like, and really, really getting to know them and them getting to know us. I think something that, you know, we used to be more guilty of as teachers is kind of hiding who we are, but I think now, you know, we are more open, we are showing our vulnerabilities a lot more, and I think that helps children to feel that sense of belonging. And that will help them flourish. They will become happier and safer when they know that they've got somebody else who feels what they feel and who has been through what they've been through. In our school, we are very multicultural. We're right in the heart of Cardiff, and we do get a lot of children who have seen some very awful things. You know, you try to protect them as much as you can, but you know that they are coming with a lot of extra baggage that no child should have to carry. And I think it's very important that we take that into consideration when we're teaching them every day, making sure that the messages that we're conveying and the self that we're bringing to the class is, you know, always positive and reinforces how much they're loved and cared for in our schools.
Absolutely, thank you very much. Jim, what are your views?
I started thinking about this in terms of a definition of the word flourish, and there are many definitions, but the one I came up with is to grow and develop in a healthy and vigorous way into a robust and thriving young adult. And for me and for us in Llangadic School, it's about values, it's about Christian values, practical values, community values, but not only embodying those values, it's acting upon them as well. Because if we encourage our pupils to act in that way, then they will leave school and go on to the next stage of their development and not only flourish themselves, but give back as well. So it's about all parts of the educational ecosystem playing a part, but making sure that children are at the very centre of that ecosystem, and people supporting each other, staff support everybody, don't they? Because that's what you do. But also staff supporting parents, parents supporting staff, governors playing their role, but everybody having a clear vision of what that flourishing child at the centre of that ecosystem is and what they need to be. So if you think about it like, I suppose, like a snowball effect, you want it to be a snowball effect so that ecosystem grows and grows and feeds on itself. So if the teacher is the facilitator that takes those pupils to the top of a ski jump and then pushes them off, then the higher the ski jump, the more the snowball effect will grow on our pupils. And you know, with the world the way it is today, we need to launch as many of those snowballs as we can to quench the fires that we all know are out there. So if everybody plays their part, everybody will flourish. Not just the pupils, they will be at the centre of it, but everybody involved in that ecosystem. And that's what we try and achieve in Llangadic.
Great, thank you very much for those insights.
We're going to move on to our next question now. So, how can we ensure that every child sees themselves in the curriculum? Gemma?
Like I said, in our school we follow an inquiry model, and that inquiry does start with belonging, where we do get to know about the children, and I think that's really vital, is that they are able to see their voice or hear their voice and their thoughts conveyed in their learning. So as part of our inquiry model, we'll start with something to hook them, catch them. They don't know what they don't know. And so we'll start with that, and then we'll move on by asking the children what do they want to know next. And then we kind of fill in the gaps, but we follow their learning. And that starts with our nursery children, and it goes all the way up to our year 6 children. And that's the nature of our model. It's almost like concentric circles. So we start with the child in the home and in their family, and then we move on to within the community, within wider Wales, within the world. And by the time the children get to year 6, they've had so many opportunities to see themselves represented in the curriculum, see their words on the wall, their photographs, their families, that they do start to feel this is my curriculum, this is my school, I own this. And that's exactly what we want for our future leaders, is that they know how to have their voice conveyed, and to be heard, and to be really sort of respected in everything they do. We also, when I started in the school, we were working with DARPL very closely at the start, and I carried out an audit, and I asked the children to walk around. We are a multicultural school, and I said to a group of 8 children, can you see yourself in our school? And 6 of them said no. And that really surprised us. Being a multicultural school, we thought we were doing all the right things, but it really made us realise, actually, we've got a far way to go. So we've worked really closely with the children. They've developed our policies. They've developed sort of pathways for, what happens next if there's a racist incident in school. Every child knows what to do, which is language that, I didn't have, my daughters didn't have until fairly recently in their school. I'm from global majority heritage. My daughters are mixed again. It's something that is very important for us, and within our school that is also very important, that the children have that language to be able to talk about those things.
Great, that's very insightful, thank you. Ahmed, how would you respond?
You know what, I actually prepared for the third question, but I'll answer this one. Obviously I'm not a teacher, but I believe we learn from the person. You are the curriculum as a teacher, as a school. I personally learn from the individual in front of me, rather than what he or they say. So as a father, as a Muslim, I always look at Jesus as an educational, a mentor, someone who is a bit of a teacher. And a teacher should lead by example. So when I play my role as a father, if I want my son to learn something, I'll try and do it right in front of him, whether it's a minor, small topic, or a large one, or a big one. It's always, I'll try to be doing it right in front of him. And that's why my 5-year-old son is ready to hold his own conferences. He wants to go to the shop with a 3-piece suit. Now
you tell me.
You see, so, and I'm thinking, it's about, like, going back to Barry, and having him as part of my journey in Wales is it didn't stop at school. We're still working together. We just established a steering group for our conference, and he co-leads it with me, and I'm still learning from him till today. So, what is the curriculum? What is your curriculum? How far do you want to see your child, your people go? Are you willing to see him outside school, see him outside school? How much of an example are you for your pupils? And importantly, as a father, Mrs. Pritchard is here, so I don't, I have a lot of respect for her, so I'm not going to be out of line today, Mrs. Pritchard. But as a father, I really worry about my children's identity being lost in this curriculum. I want my children to have high values, good morals. I want them to be modest in their approach, in their looks, and I want them to hold on to their faith. But is the school working with me to help them be who they should be, but the best version of themselves? I don't feel that. So what is the curriculum really? What are you trying to do with our children? If you're trying to just teach them and just send them into the roads, then go ahead. But if you want to create leaders, then what are you doing? And that's something that I live for. I grew up knowing that I'll have children one day that will be my legacy. So if I'm sending my children my legacy to your schools, what I do with our legacy. And that's, I hope that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you for that response. Richard, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think just building on what colleagues have said here, I think the curriculum and the vision and the values that underpin it can't just be something that we put up on the wall. Colleagues in the room will know you get the feel for a school when you're walking through the door. You don't need to see what the curriculum vision is pinned up somewhere. So it's what we see, what we feel, what we hear. It's what all of the senses kind of instill in us when we go in. And you know, I was at one point the youngest head teacher in Wales. I'm not anymore. And you know, I remember when going into my school, and I've got colleagues here, so be careful. You know, and I could see them thinking, oh, who's this young know-it-all coming in, who knows all this about everything and not a lot about other things. And we had to have quite some difficult conversations around curriculum. And one thing that stuck with me, a conversation that we had, was around, have you taught for 20 years or have you taught the same year 20 times? Because our cohorts change, our children change. When I was in NQT, my first class was 17 boys and 2 girls. That curriculum was very different that year for that class compared to the year after, when there was a lot more girls in that class. So it was around having those kind of conversations with us. And now where I'm getting more deep into my career, I'm coming to the point where some of the children I taught have now got children of their own. And that cycle's come around and the curriculum's changing again. So I think it's around not being afraid to make changes and adaptations to what we're doing, so that our children really do see themselves front and centre of that curriculum. And I think you were saying before, it's around, you know, they know what they know and they don't know what they don't know. You know, and there's lots of groups, particularly of boys, who would just want to learn about football if they could choose that. So in our school, the pupils will influence the curriculum rather than lead the curriculum. So as professionals, as teachers, we scope out and we get the kind of framework of it there, but then the children really get into the nitty-gritty of what that looks like for them. So it's a real partnership, because we've got a job to do as teachers, they've got a job to do as pupils. It's not us standing up and just lecturing them. It's a real partnership, and showing that vulnerability in saying, I don't know the answer to that, let's find out together, is actually really powerful, and something that we do really well, I think, in our school.
Yeah, thank you for that. Adele, do you have any follow-ups?
So yeah, everything that everybody said, obviously the including the children, I think, in designing the curriculum is incredibly important. My son is 10, he's in primary school, and he rolls his eyes every time he brings home this piece of paper about an inquiry that they're going to be doing in class. And I keep saying to him, we didn't get that opportunity when I was in school. We were just given the work that we were doing. And he's like, well, why do I need to know what, you know, this is about? And then, you know, a couple of weeks in, when they're doing the inquiry and they're learning whatever it is they're learning, he's like, Mum, did you know about this? I'm like, yes, Sam, we learned this in school. And you can see how they've, as a class, talked about what they're going to learn and how they're going to learn it. And, you know, I guess it's making sure that when you're designing your curriculum in school, that it does take into consideration all of your groups of children and their backgrounds. And because we you know, the work that I do in my policy area includes Gypsy Roma travellers, asylum seekers, refugees, and often, sometimes, those groups are, their culture, their background is not part of that curriculum, and maybe, you know, the school might not have, I think, Chantal, you talked about it, you know, school might not have a Gypsy Roma traveller in their school, but it's really important to learn about those cultures and those backgrounds, because if we don't know, you know, Chantal, you talked about where you grew up. My dad worked in Cardiff Council down the Bay, and we never ever went anywhere. There was always white people in the village I lived in. The doctor was from India, and then I can remember driving down Boat Street as a kid with my dad in the car and seeing people of different heritage, backgrounds, colours, you know, and not understanding what this was about. But, you know, when you expose children to learning and knowing all about those things, I think you create children who are far, you know, far happier and far more educated than you will ever be by following a curriculum that I did when I was in school. But also that curriculum needs to develop, not just year by year. It needs to evolve and change. And you can't do that if you don't do that professional learning or that the learning from the children themselves. That feedback that they give. You can't do that, and that changes all the way through the years, I guess. So.
Great, thank you very much. For our final question, just because we're a little bit short on time, what unique contributions does collective worship make that is not found in the context of the wider school experience? And to add on to that, what distinctive value does collective worship offer that cannot be replicated elsewhere in school life? I was going to ask that question to you, please, Sarah.
Thank you. I'm not sure that the second half of it, whether collective worship offers something that can't be replicated elsewhere in school. But I will tell you what I think a bit about collective worship is that it should both be something totally other than what you do in the rest of your day, and also completely part of your thread. I worked in 5 primary schools in my previous post, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it. And as a priest, I start every day with morning prayer and evening prayer, and it kind of bookends my day. And one of the lovely things about collective worship is it sort of stops our day and allows us to think about the bigger things in life. One of those schools, which I was really fond of, changed it to put it in the middle of the day. And I was sad about that, in a sense, because there's something about starting right. And I know it was hard to get everyone in at the time, and you have to do the registers, and Johnny is late again. But there was something about saying, this is how we start, and this is how we finish. If you do it in the middle of the day, I think it is, though, still a great opportunity for otherness. It's stopping the performance. It's stopping trying to get ticks in the win column. It's stopping, who are the bright kids? Who are the ones that need some more support? It's just us all together thinking about the great things in life. The God that made everything, the fact that we may be in different streams, or I may be useless at something and you may be brilliant, but we're together. The same bit of creation. So I think there's this magic thing about it being totally other, no performance, no ranking, no nothing like that. But if you've got your values right, those values just go all the way through the whole thing.
Thank you very much. Jim, what are your thoughts on that?
I'd agree very much with that. It's a time to reflect, and it's a golden time for the staff and the people who are delivering that collective worship to give a real consistent message about what the school's values are. It's a real opportunity for the pupils to take part in that, to give their own message to other pupils, but it's also a time to get that message, talk about the thread of things going through what happens in the day, and the collective worship is a real time to focus on the thread rather than what goes on in the classroom. Although that thread is always there, it's not always brought to the surface. In collective worship, it gives you that opportunity to focus, reflect, and think about why you were doing things. So I think it's a really important foundation, and the foundation of that collective worship lays the foundation for what you're going to build for the rest of the week in terms of what happens in the classroom.
Thank you for that, and thank you to all of our panellists for sharing their views and insights. I hope that you've all been challenged and encouraged by what you've heard. We now have a few minutes to take questions from the floor. There should be a microphone making its way around, so please do raise your hand if you would like to ask a question of the panel.
It might be nice to see you, Sarah. Hello, John. Thank you all. I was really encouraged. You need to hear these things sometimes. And thank you. I always love listening to you and your stories. My challenging question, if I may, and I wonder maybe Sarah or Ahmed, maybe this is a question for you. I think when we talk about belonging and Cynefin and flourishing, it can all feel a little bit sweet.
Yeah.
It's all very nice, and we want to be loving, and church schools are caring. We have this monopoly on care, which of course we don't. All schools are caring schools. You know, we talked about belonging, or we heard about belonging being rooted in place. You've got to go up mountains and walk on sand. Belonging is temporal. We've heard about those experiences from people's past impacting on their present and their imagined futures. But belonging's painful as well. It hurts to belong. You've got to give things up that are important to you. So I suppose my question in all of that is, we talk a lot about the pastoral nature of education in church schools. What about the prophetic nature? Where is the role of church education in the prophetic and in challenging and in speaking truth to power? And where is our future as a church in Wales prophetically at?
What a great question. I'm going to start that off, because I absolutely agree with you, and I think in this current political climate, and I'm not making a party political point here, I think we are moving towards what is normal and what is British and what is Welsh. We need to be quite careful, because that will exclude certain people. And I think when we're talking about belonging, as well as all the nice things we have to do, sometimes being pastoral is fighting. I don't mean on the streets with a couple of cans of beer or anything, but I do mean speaking truth to power. Because people will start picking other people off, and they will pick the marginalised people out. They will try and make us all into some false, cohesive society. And this is where you guys are caught in the middle, because it's not your fault. And you are facing an oncoming kind of public thing about, oh yes, let's get back to some basic values here. Let's do it like we used to do it. And you are going to have to, in small and large ways, occasionally stand up and say, well actually, this child who is neurodiverse or neurodivergent belongs to this class and my school every bit as much as everybody else does. Or this person who needs a wheelchair belongs to our school every bit as much as everybody else. And that will cost you. You will have to face angry parents, or the odd comment on Facebook, or more than the odd comment on Facebook, and that is attritional for you. All I would say is a couple of things tying into religion. Jesus was not necessarily nice. Jesus sometimes upset people, and Jesus said things which were not popular at times. We know that, but we tend to think of him as like smoothing the waters and being on side for everyone. It really wasn't that. And sometimes your teaching profession, and those of you who are Christians or of any faith, it does mean you're going to have to stand up and say, I'll tell you what together means. It means the Good Samaritan. It means the people that we would speak badly of, binding up our wounds and we thinking, we learning from them. But in doing that, you will be modelling great behaviour to everyone who sees you. The angry man or the angry woman won't thank you for it, but 10 people who are silent and see you will. You will have a massive impact, but it will be hard. But that too is a holy thing.
Here, here. Can we thumbs up? After her? And you invited me here to set me up, right? You set me up. Well, I'll be very short. I'm to be honest with you, I don't like. It's just the fact that we asking that question, belonging. To me, this world, this place here, this world belongs to human beings. I need to be understood and respected. When I first started as a funeral director, I was only a Muslim funeral home. But when I opened our doors to all faith and no faith, I've learned the hard way, the good way actually, that I should be a better listener to others and look at others' needs. See, our problem is we don't look at our commons, we always look at our differences. If you focus on our commons, you'll find that we belong. We all have the same mental health issues, we all have the same problems, bereaved, same, and so forth. It's just we choose to look at the problem that is caused by the person in front of us or in our neighborhood. But we don't look at the commons, you know. That's why I love the Christian faith, because I would teach it to my children, because it's all about peace and love and care, and you know, that's common. I agree with that too. So why can't we focus on common, and that should help us belong better. Thank you.
That brings us to the end of our panel. So thank you again to Richard, Gemma, Adele, Ahmed, Sarah and Jim. And we all hope you have a lovely rest of the conference.
Thank you.